Welcome to this video on the story of Michelangelo, personal life, famous paintings, trivia. Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni was an Italian Renaissance artist, architect, and poet who is considered one of the greatest artists of all time. He was born on March 6, 1475 in Caprese, Italy, and was the second of 5 sons of Ludovico di Leonardo Buonarroti Simoni and Francesca di Neri del Miniato di Siena. Michelangelo's family were modestly wealthy landowners and were not particularly interested in the arts, but Michelangelo was drawn to art from an early age. Michelangelo received his early education in art from the painter Domenico Ghirlandaio, and he began working as an apprentice in Ghirlandaio's workshop when he was 13 years old. He later studied sculpture under the artist Bertoldo di Giovanni, and he was eventually able to study at the Medici Academy in Florence, where he was exposed to the works of ancient Greek and Roman art. Michelangelo's early work as an artist was primarily focused on sculpture, and he produced several notable works during this period, including the Battaglia di Cassina and the Madonna of the Stairs. He also worked as an apprentice in the workshop of the artist Francesco Granacci, where he was exposed to the works of the Flemish painter Rogier van der Weyden and the Italian painter Fra Angelico. Michelangelo was a deeply private person and not much is known about his personal life. However, we do know that he was very close to his family and had a close relationship with his brother, who was also an artist. Michelangelo was also known to be a bit of a recluse and preferred to spend his time working on his art rather than socializing. Despite his fame and success, Michelangelo faced many challenges in his personal life, including financial difficulties, illness, and the deaths of loved ones. Despite these struggles, he remained dedicated to his craft and produced some of the most iconic works of art in history. Michelangelo moved to Bologna with his family when he was a young boy. In Bologna, he studied under the artist Domenico Ghirlandaio and learned the techniques of fresco painting. In Florence, Michelangelo became a member of the Medici household and received commissions for several important works, including the sculpture Bacchus and the painting The Holy Family. He also began working on the tomb of Pope Julius II, which would become one of his most famous works. In 1499, Michelangelo moved to Rome to work on the tomb of Pope Julius II. He spent much of the rest of his career working on various projects in Rome, including the Sistine Chapel ceiling and the Laurentian Library. He also continued to receive commissions for sculptures and paintings, including the famous David sculpture. In 1496, Michelangelo was invited to Rome by the artist and patron Lorenzo de' Medici, and he spent several years there working on various projects. During this period, he produced several notable works, including the Pieta and the David. In 1501, he returned to Florence, where he continued to work as an artist and became one of the most celebrated artists of the Renaissance. Michelangelo's artistic career spanned more than 7 decades, and he produced a large body of work in a variety of media, including sculpture, painting, and architecture. Some of his most famous works include the sculpture David, the painting The Last Judgment on the altar wall of the Sistine Chapel, and the design of the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Michelangelo died on February 18, 1564 at the age of 88. Michelangelo is famous for many paintings, sculptures, and architectural works, but some of his most famous paintings include the Sistine Chapel ceiling. This is probably Michelangelo's most famous work and is a series of frescoes that he painted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. The frescoes depict scenes from the Book of Genesis and are considered some of the greatest masterpieces of Renaissance art. The Last Judgment. This fresco is located on the altar wall of the Sistine Chapel and depicts the second coming of Christ and the final judgment of humanity. The fresco is notable for its dramatic use of light and shadow, as well as its powerful depiction of the human form. The Doni Tondo. This is a circular painting that depicts the Holy Family and is considered one of Michelangelo's most important works of the High Renaissance. The painting is notable for its dynamic composition and the skillful use of perspective. The Crucifixion of St. Peter. This fresco is located in the Pauline Chapel in the Vatican and depicts the martyrdom of St. Peter, one of the apostles of Jesus. The fresco is notable for its dramatic use of light and shadow, as well as its powerful depiction of the human form. The Conversion of Saul. This fresco is located in the Pauline Chapel in the Vatican and depicts the moment when the Apostle Paul was converted to Christianity on the road to Damascus. The fresco is notable for its dramatic composition and the skillful use of perspective. The Sistine Chapel is a chapel located in the Vatican City in Rome, Italy. It is named after Pope Sixtus IV, who commissioned the construction of the chapel in the 1472. The chapel is famous for its frescoes, which were painted by Michelangelo between 1508 and 1512. The Sistine Chapel ceiling is one of Michelangelo's most famous works and is considered a masterpiece of Renaissance art. The frescoes depict scenes from the Book of Genesis, including the story of the creation of the world, the fall of man, and the story of Noah and the flood. Michelangelo spent 4 years working on the ceiling, which covers an area of over 12,000 square feet. The frescoes on the Sistine Chapel ceiling are notable for their dramatic use of light and shadow, as well as Michelangelo's realistic depiction of the human form. The figures in the frescoes are shown in a variety of poses, and Michelangelo used his knowledge of anatomy to create highly detailed and realistic figures. The Sistine Chapel ceiling is also notable for its use of perspective, which gives the impression of depth and creates a sense of movement in the scenes depicted. The Sistine Chapel ceiling remains one of Michelangelo's most famous works and is visited by millions of tourists each year. It is considered a masterpiece of Renaissance art and is one of the most iconic works of art in the world. The Pieta is a famous sculpture by Michelangelo that is located in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The sculpture depicts the body of Jesus Christ after he has been taken down from the cross, with the Virgin Mary cradling his body in her lap. The Pieta is notable for its highly realistic depiction of the human form and its emotional intensity. The Pieta was carved from a single block of marble and is considered one of Michelangelo's greatest masterpieces. The sculpture is notable for its lifelike depiction of the human body, particularly the musculature and the delicate features of the face. Michelangelo used his knowledge of anatomy to create a highly realistic and expressive depiction of the figures in the sculpture. The Pieta is also notable for its emotional intensity and the sense of grief and loss that it conveys. The Virgin Mary is depicted with a sense of sorrow and resignation, while the body of Jesus is shown in a naturalistic and realistic manner that gives the impression of a lifeless corpse. David is a famous sculpture by Michelangelo that depicts the biblical hero David. The sculpture is made of marble and stands over 17 feet tall. It is one of Michelangelo's most famous works and is considered a masterpiece of Renaissance art. The sculpture depicts David at the moment he is about to face Goliath in battle. David is shown standing with a sling in his hand, ready to defend his people against the giant Philistine warrior. Michelangelo's depiction of David is notable for its realism and its emphasis on the human form. The sculpture is highly detailed and depicts the musculature of the body with great accuracy. David is also notable for its size and the attention to detail that Michelangelo put into the sculpture. The sculpture is over 17 feet tall, and Michelangelo spent a great deal of time working on the details of the face and the body. The sculpture is a testament to Michelangelo's skill as a sculptor and his ability to create lifelike and expressive works of art. David is now one of the most famous sculptures in the world and is a symbol of the city of Florence. It is located in the Galleria dell'Accademia in Florence and is visited by millions of tourists each year. Michelangelo is perhaps best known for his paintings, sculptures, and poetry, but he also had several notable architectural commissions. Michelangelo designed the library to be an elegant and functional space for the storing and reading of books, and he incorporated many of his signature design elements, such as grand, sweeping staircases and harmonious proportions. Another important architectural commission for Michelangelo was the design of the Capitoline Hill in Rome. He was responsible for creating a master plan for the renovation and expansion of the hill, which included the construction of new buildings, the redesign of existing structures, and the creation of public spaces. Michelangelo's work on the Capitoline Hill helped to transform it into a cultural and political center of Rome. Other notable architectural commissions for Michelangelo include the design of the Palazzo della Signoria and the Palazzo Farnese in Rome.